Guten Abend, mein kleiner Freunde. Welcome back to the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. That's me. And I hope you're all ready for another interesting examination of the weird architecture we seem to find around the world. Welcome there to Kebetswe and to Christian. Hello, hello. I hope you are in fine and fabulous form, and you are all ready for a very interesting evening's discussion. And as we wait for a few people to join us on our happy travels, I do remind you all that on this channel we have but one rule, and that is don't be rude, because if you are rude we will give you the boot. But that said, we always enjoy interaction. You don't have to agree, you don't have to disagree, you may have whatever opinion you feel like, and we welcome interaction and commentary. And indeed, I hope that you will comment a great deal. And remember that our entire ability to do this delightful channel relies on you. So like, share, subscribe, do all of the good things that we need to keep things going. Now, we've been going around and looking at archaeology and architecture and interesting things around the world. And we have quite a few interesting things to talk about, because tonight we are looking at interesting archaeology and architecture in Africa. Now, technically, Egypt is part of Africa. But we did Egypt on its own, so they are not part of what we are looking at today. We are looking at all the other interesting places, and there are indeed many. And many of them are quite strange. We don't entirely know what all of them were for or why, and in some cases they are even a little bit out of time. Hey there, Jenny. Welcome, welcome. Certain things, according to mainline understood archaeology, we know, as they say, that human evolution worked in a certain way, and we only got to certain levels of civilization at certain points of history. Yet certain of the archaeological ruins found in Africa predate that by a good 100,000 years, maybe more, which sort of flies in the face of the accepted timeline in archaeology, which is rather interesting. So we're going to run through a few things and see what weird things we can find. And of course, the weirder the better. We do enjoy strange conspiracies and alien interventions and more, because after all, why not? It's fun. Now, I do remind you we are not necessarily promoting any of these theories whatsoever, but then again, we are not denying them either. We are merely looking at them to see what we think and enjoying the fact that they are, in fact, out there. So welcome to you all. I hope you are ready for what I think is going to be an interesting chat tonight. Do get involved. Like, share, subscribe, send many, many, many hearts. And even some gifts would be lovely. And with that, I think, let's get started. So we are going to do a very, very fast overview in that regard. When it comes to archaeology in Africa, what sort of things? Now, Inexplicable archaeological finds in Africa include the 476,000-year-old structure found in Kabwe in Zambia, which interestingly enough is not very far from where I was born. So there you go. Now, as we know, this is way older than any buildings ought to be, and indeed it might be one of the world's oldest buildings, which makes it very interesting indeed. Then, of course, a mere 200,000 years ago, you have the Bakoni ruins in South Africa, which are quite complex stone structures. We have the Tia stones of Ethiopia, decorated megaliths of unknown purpose. The Lomkwe stone tools found in Kenya. Another interesting thing. So let's see what we think about these different things. And welcome to you if you've just joined. I hope you are having a fine and fabulous evening. Even a villain like villainism. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to Jaden Bischoff. So as we get going, the Kabwe finds in Zambia. So nearly 500,000 years old. Worked wood at a site that is quite possibly one of the oldest structures of humankind. Now, of course, as we troll along with these things, we need to keep in mind that not everything is known in archaeology. We have a lot of theories. We suspect a great deal. We assume a great deal. Many thanks there for the likes, Nikki. We like to think we know, and we make our theories out of them, but they are, by and large,
in 2019, importantly, a team of researchers
theories, and that's the important part, that we don't actually know. So the Kabwe ruins, being as old as they are, show that ultimately there was enough civilization in an area that people were settled, people had developed enough to build, to have time for such things. If you're living hand to mouth in a particularly survival mode type thing, you don't generally have times to do all of the things that come with a settled settlement. Settlements mean that you've developed agriculture in some way, that you've been able to build. Jaden, your boy, hi to you as well. I hope you're in fine and fabulous form. So, in order to build, you need to be able to have access to food in an area. And of course, that means you're able to settle, which almost always means you've got a way of producing food. Do I remember you? Jaden, yes, I do remember you. It's been a while at least, though. Are you well? Are you good? Is life happy? So, moving along, not quite as old as the ruins by Kabwe, but nevertheless particularly old, are the Bakoni ruins, which are in South Africa and in Mpumalanga. Thank you so much for the likes there, Flow Up. I do appreciate that greatly. Not forgotten, Jaden, I assure you. Thanks there for the sharing of the live. I do appreciate. So the Bokoni ruins are a mere 200,000 years old. Again, and this is a problem for um, the accepted archaeological timeline because it's way too early for stone terraces and proper fields and roads in South Africa. It's way too early for that kind of thing. Nevertheless, uh, did aliens build the pyramids? Well, that's a question. We are going to look at some African pyramids, believe it or not, so we shall have to decide that. Am I in Egypt now? No, I am not in Egypt. I am in South Africa. All righty, people, be good and let's enjoy the chats here. And Jaden, hey, how are you doing?
So I wanted to ask another question.
Yes, be free to.
Why is letters in mathematics?
Why are letters in mathematics? I'm afraid that we actually have to blame the Arabs for that, because it was them that developed the idea of geometry and stuff. And with that, you required the use of extra symbols, and letters became the used method of doing so. Advanced mathematics requires more than a standard counting system, and that was something that was developed in the Arab cultures, along with the concept of zero. Prior to, there was no concept of zero. So, yeah, that's why we have letters in mathematics.
And I just wanted to say, when I was like a kid, like an actual kid, like small, I was in the school like about older than 5 decades, so like over 50 years old. So there's like people are actually buried under the school. So I was just standing there with a bag. I just felt something pull the bag, so I got scared and I just threw the bag at the ground. And then when I went to go fetch the bag, there was nothing there or anything, just a bunch of ants.
Well, that's something which is actually more common than you might think. Um, and it seems, believe it or not, that schools in Africa seem to often be a target for strange things. And one does wonder why. Several of the notable African alien encounters that are alleged to have happened at schools, and quite a few hauntings. Uh, there are a number of haunted schools, especially in South Africa, but I believe all over Africa as well. So maybe there's something
See,
to it.
because there's a
Say,
school at St. Patrick's CBC. What about that?
St. Patrick's, where is St. Patrick's? I don't know where that is.
It's in Kimberley. It's about almost 200 years old.
Well, that would do it. I do know that one of the issues around things like ghosts in Africa, at least, is if you're going to go back quite a bit in time, given that, unlike, say, England, which is a country where space is a premium and therefore people were very careful where you put things like graveyards and what have you, space has never been a premium in Africa. We have a lot of it. So generally, the common practice was that if somebody died, they were very often buried on the property, which is not common in Europe, for example. And as a result, you have little small private graveyards all over the place in all over Africa, which means you have ghosts in many of the older places. Now, in modern times, of course, that's not allowed. Things have changed, as you can imagine. But in older times, yeah, absolutely. People were buried on properties and schools, especially, all the time. So, yeah, ghosts, lots of.
Because like what else did I want to ask? I forgot. Like No, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot.
It's all good. So the other question we're being asked is, did aliens build the pyramids? And of course, normally when you talk about pyramids, you're actually referring to um, the Egyptian pyramids. But that is, as we have discovered, by no means the only pyramids around the world, and by no means the only pyramids in Africa. And of course, we know that there are a number of supposed alien visitations in Africa, and we've got a couple of them that we're going to talk about tonight as well. So
So, and I
definitely,
actually have a
yes,
theory. You like know how the moon is like coming closer to us, right?
yes.
Doesn't that mean like what if aliens are like behind it and it's pushing it towards us so we can be in danger so they can go live on our other planet without being found out?
Well, of course, that's a big question because let's assume, for the sake of argument, that aliens really do exist. I know some people do believe, some people don't believe, but let's pretend for a moment that it's absolute fact and they do exist. Okay. The question we would have to answer is, what do they want here? Because in all of the different apparent encounters that people talk about worldwide, nobody seems to give a decent explanation for why they come here. What do they want? Are they here to refuel or resupply on their journey elsewhere? Are they here to check us out? You know, nobody seems to know. And to me,
Or
that
are they
is,
or are they
well,
here to kill us? That's the other
that
thing.
that is absolutely a very good question. You know, are we simply in the way for creating a decent new place to live on, and therefore we might be removed in the terminal manner? It's a very good question, and we don't know. But nobody seems to be able to give any solid answer in that regard. Though it does seem that sometimes, as you will discover later on in the live, the meetings might be friendly. But that's when we get to the pyramids and the buildings of the Dogon. So let's get on with things and let's see where we can go, because there's a whole lot more. So the Bakoni ruins are most important now, as I said, with the ruins at Kabwe in Zambia. In order to start doing buildings and doing art type things, that's anything more than like cave art type stuff, you need to be able to settle. And then to be able to settle, you have to have agriculture. And the Bakoni ruins are exactly that. And 200,000 years ago, there was absolutely supposed to be nothing like it. But apparently there was. Roads, fields, stone terraces for retaining water in the soil, and more, which means that the agricultural revolution in southern Africa, at least, happened a very long time before you might think. And Heyrons has joined us as well. Sire, are you in fine and fabulous form? I do hope that you're good. You can join us too. Jaden's on live with us and asking questions, which is great.
I want to ask something.
Yes, sir.
You must know like what if they weren't actually aliens that built the pyramids? Actually, it's two questions. What if it wasn't aliens that built it, or like just giants that built it, like superhuman? And how did the river get there? The river of life, or whatever they call it.
The river of life, you mean the Nile?
Yeah.
Well, the Nile, of course, is a natural feature. That's fine, which starts in the middle of Africa in a lake, believe it or not, and flows up and out. The river systems in Africa are actually very, very interesting and well worth looking at, just for how they've affected a lot of different developments for cultures throughout Africa, because with the deserts that we have, hey there to Black Doug, welcome, welcome.
So like you're saying that that thing just like came from another place to that.
Well, the river itself, of course, yes, that's natural, and it runs from Central Africa out to the coast, which is in the north. But in terms of the pyramids, could there be other series? Well, when we did the whole live on Egypt and the pyramids, there were a number of different issues that archaeology has difficulty answering. We know, for example, where the stone was mined that built the pyramids, and we know where the pyramids are. And we know that they took the stone from the site where it was mined to the site of the pyramids, cut the stone to shape there, and then built the pyramids, which is fine in theory, except that the stones are up to 10 tons. Now, I don't know. Have you ever tried to ride a bicycle on sand?
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it?
Well,
Getting
not with
any
a mountain bike.
Well, getting anything over sand takes a lot more effort than it does on solid type ground. Now, if you're
Oh, so you're saying like how did they take that blocks and go over the sand and
That's it, because now we're not just talking something light. We're talking things that are 10 tons and sometimes even more. That's a lot of weight. And then having dragged it all the way there, now to be able to lift it right up. So the theories that are the official archaeological theories are not that great. We have issues with them. But then what is the alternative?
So I will be there.
Oh, okay, cool, cool.
what if like what if there wasn't actually aliens or giants? What
Well,
if it was like just hundreds yo I choked. What if it was just hundreds of people carrying each block, like for example 20 people carrying one and others?
well, that's the official theory that it was done using human labor, skilled labor, but nevertheless human. The other theories include they had advanced technology that we don't know about, that they had some kind of magic, or that aliens did it for them. So,
Do you,
yeah,
what do you think aliens actually look like? Do you think they're like some green little creatures, or do you like think they're actually like 10 foot tall and that?
I have no idea. I must be honest, I've never seen one, and I think that given the nature of variance around just on this earth with creatures, it could turn out to be absolutely anything. So I haven't really got a theory about that.
I know, right? But like, what do you think they look like? Like, do you think they're blue, grayish, or like, do you think they're like very tall with most muscular bodies, or
My theory is that they're probably not humanoid at all.
oh, so you think they're like have forearms or like that?
Um, Possibly not even that. It would be logical, given the number of what we call UFOs going around, that why shouldn't they be some kind of form that isn't purely physical, a form of light or a form of gas, which may explain why we never seem to see them. We expect too much based on what we are, and there is no real evidence to say that they would be like that. Does that make sense?
So like, yeah, I understand, but like, what if you're like, what is that theory where they like go in the middle of huge farms and they take a cow? That is not logical, cause like I don't get it.
Well, again, another theory is that there is more on this earth, and it's not alien, it's something from this earth, just not in the way we know. So perhaps it's not aliens. Perhaps it's some kind of other creature that lives
Yo,
here.
wait a minute. Like, what if there was actually like a huge giant, like 20, 30 feet tall, and was like, it walked to Egypt and it took all the blocks one by one. Doof, doof.
These are all theories that people have put forward in time. And indeed, giants is a popular one. And strictly speaking, there is historical writing, which may not be true. I'm not saying the writing is true, but the writing exists that speaks of giants that existed before the flood. And we know in the
Yeah.
Bible they talk of David and Goliath. Goliath was a giant.
Yeah.
So
And
I don't know. It's possible.
you see, like, I was busy swimming at Cape Town, I think. So I saw when I went underwater, I was wearing goggles, and all. When I went underwater, I like went 10, 28 meters away from the shore. Like, I was far. So I went underwater. My cousin was actually with me. I was going the opposite direction, so he was going left and I was going right. So then when he came back up, he was like, she was like shivering. He was like scared. His eyes were like wide open. He said that he saw something that he didn't want to see.
Well, hold on to that thought because we're going to get back to it. When we get to, again, the Dogon, because it may relate. So keep that thought in mind. Then let's run down some more. Did you know that we have a stone star map in South Africa? So in the Bokoni ruins, not only is it proof of architecture and of agriculture, there is the 30-meter stone circle with stones aligned to the Orion's Belt star formation, which is very, very interesting because, okay, specifically two parts to this interesting
Oh wait,
point.
sorry, I commented something. I was supposed to just keep that in my thing. Wait, sorry.
No, we will keep hold of that because underwater counts, okay, and we will get to
No,
it.
no, I know. I said I just wanted to like to keep it in the chat so I
All
can
good.
like.
You are quite correct to do so. So, first of all, it's important because if you have star maps, it indicates that the culture has some kind of serious interest in and knowledge of the stars. Okay, so more advanced than just like, barely human living hand to mouth type thing. Secondly, it's important because it's Orion's belt. Why Orion's belt? Because the pyramids are aligned to Orion's belt. And quite a few other structures around the world, including in South America, are aligned to Orion's belt. Why that star set? It seems to imply that that specific star formation is important.
Or
Okay.
maybe it's not a star and it's the alien that built the thing. You never know.
Well, that's one of the questions. So then you also have the Tia stones in Ethiopia, which are 46 large stone megaliths decorated with symbols resembling plants, swords, human figures, and more, which may seem to have come from around the 10th century, which is pretty early on. And nobody knows what they were put up for, which is very, very interesting. But apparently, they were recording something important. We also have proof of early tool making. Now, it might not sound that exciting until you realize that humans were only supposed to actually start using proper tools 500,000 years after these tools come from, which immediately tells you that there were tools used by early human beings well before the current human version of Homo sapiens. So,
Wait, can I just say something?
yes,
You know, like there's different dimensions and universes, right?
yes.
What if like there was another universe that's more in the future that used like a time traveler thing and like go back, go to different universes, and they use that to go to the pyramid, and then they built that to leave a sign?
Well, of course, one of the theories, which is even in varying ways, firstly in the Quran and in the Bible and in the Torah, are of something which the Muslim community calls the jinn, which apparently only partly exist
It's a
in this
spirit.
world. Sort of yes, sort of no. Spirits in general are just spiritual. These can be physical, but they live partly in this dimension and partly in another one, which means they can pass between. And they are considered to be another intelligent race. If you read the Quran, they speak of them as an actual intelligent race that is therefore subject to God's law, just as humans are. They're
Do
not.
you think like do you think what do you want to yeah, do you think like what if like there's like something living in space like a snake or anything, like for example like there's something in space that can breathe in space and it's just like slithering around? What do you think?
That I don't know. But we do have other things that may have come from space. As we progress, we will find the other big ones are the Blombos Cave, where engravings were made that are 77,000 years old, which show that, again, very early. And then
What?
what this
I
all
just wait, talk finished.
So what this comes to is that there is proof of advanced civilizations a lot older than we really thought people do these things. So, for example, the Maghreb region, there is a large-scale farming community, well, the remains of, I should say, similar in size to early Bronze Age Troy, which means that the prehistory beyond the Nile corridor is way more than you might think and may have had a serious impact on development even of the Mediterranean side, taught them rather than them us, if that makes sense, which changes the view of history. And with that, we now need to go, talking of the view of history, seeing as you were asking about the pyramids, what about the African pyramids? And there's quite a few of them. So in Nubia, which is in areas like Meroe and Nuri, was the original area of what was known as the Kingdom of Kush, which was a very powerful and advanced kingdom, well, way back in the day, which built pyramids for certain reasons. There were also pyramids in Nigeria at Nsude, built by the Igbo. And this adds to the whole story, as it were, because again, you've got people wanting to build pyramids. Why pyramids? Donovan, yo, welcome, welcome. So the question that we really need to try to find answers to is, what is the interest in pyramids? Why pyramids all the time? And used for a number of different things. Jacqueline, hey, welcome, welcome. I hope you're in fine form there. So the Nubian pyramids are in modern-day Sudan. They are found in the middle of the desert, yes, along the Nile River, along sites like Meroe and Nuri. They are smaller and steeper than the Egyptian pyramids, with narrow bases and varying degrees to their steepness. They come from around 300 to 350 on either side of the central era, as it were. So 300 before Christ to 350 after Christ, in the old way of timing. The modern timing systems is weird. And they were made for the monarchs of the Kushites, they think, serving as tombs and burial sites. Now, what makes them different is from the grand pyramids of Egypt, is that they have African symbolism and stuff, and may have had a more diverse range of occupants in that regard. Now, they are similar in many ways to the Nigerian pyramids in Nsudi, and they are
Excuse me.
yes.
Have you heard about that thing? I saw it somewhere on TikTok. It shows like, like the pyramid itself, right? Then it shows like a whole other passage like below it that's like over 10 meters long going down.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, we know that there are a number of passages and chambers in the pyramids, and we know that the pyramids of Giza, the passages are lined up with specific points in the sky for varying religious regions, including, as I said, Orion's belt. So there's quite a lot of speculation as the importance of that. So yes, Jacqueline, are you in fine and fabulous form?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. So we are bouncing around Africa tonight.
Oh, okay. That's
Yes,
interesting.
so pyramids in Africa that are not from Egypt. So the pyramids in Nigeria were built by the Igbo, and rather than being tombs, they are shrines, which is quite interesting. It's a different take on the use of a pyramid. So it seems that while Egypt might have the biggest pyramids, they don't have the most. The Sudan has the world's largest concentration. I don't know what that in the background is. It stopped. Okay.
That's not me.
No, I think it's Jaden. I just mute him quick just to stop the scrapey noise from disturbing everybody. But he is still there, I assure you, people, and he has not been bad. There's just some interference that's coming through for some reason, and he is welcome to re-unmute when he has a comment. So definitely there are pyramids out there that need explaining, and again, why the shape? So we know that to build things like this, you've got to have serious reasons. To put that much time and effort into something requires also a lot of resources. So you've got to be able to afford it, pay for it, feed all the people doing the building, which is a very difficult task. So clearly, these pyramids structures had to have been very, very important. And yes, okay, they speak of pyramids for the Egyptian pharaohs because they were considered to be partly gods, which absolutely is important. But what about the other places? Why would they want to do it? Now, Nubia, of course, present day northern Sudan, had very powerful kingdoms. They knew the Egyptians. At times, they were allies of the Egyptians, and at one point, they had even conquered the Egyptians. The first major Nubian state was the Kingdom of Kerma, which came out around 2500 BC, and it was then beaten and taken over by the Kingdom of Kush. It conquered Egypt and it ruled as its 25th dynasty, which most people thought was impressive. Jaden, sorry you have to go, no problem. Hopefully, we will be able to answer as much as possible for you. And I do not know what happens if you go into a black hole, though I believe it's not good for you. But have a fantastic evening. Be good and come back if you can, my friend. Bye bye. So,
Wow.
yes, so Nubia, and yes, the Kushites eventually were beaten and driven back by the Assyrians, and they didn't vanish. They established a new capital at Meroe, and on the eastern banks of the Nile, where they built a kingdom that lasted nearly 1,000 years, from about 550 BC to 500 AD. And it was Nubia's golden age, and at this time, um, they mirrored many of the Egyptian ways of doing things, and even some of their religion and their pantheon, but they built pyramids, and they put their kings in them. And their pyramid, in fact, if you look behind me, that is one of their pyramids. It is not Egyptian. That is a Nubian pyramid. And you can see it's very well constructed, square blocks, all the good stuff. It's an advanced civilization, quite clearly, which is very, very interesting. I don't know, what do you think, Jacqueline? They are smaller than Egyptian.
Yeah, much smaller. I was wondering what your opinion is about, just moving away from that for a quick second. But I had a book about UFOs, and they were talking about how the UFOs possibly could have helped the Egyptians build their pyramids and things like that.
Well, we're going to get to that. Hold that
Yeah.
thought, because there is claim that that is exactly what happened in Africa.
Yeah.
And the people who claim it might have proof. So
Yeah,
hold on to that, because it does get weird. And of course, that's the point of
yeah,
doing this. So, yeah,
yeah.
Meroe has got all kinds of interesting pyramids, beautiful ones, very much, though, with an African theme that is not the same as the Egyptian. So, the Nubians were powerful, and they had lots of money. They were very powerful, very rich. Um, they managed to rule huge areas of land. And of course, what we need to remember is that at that time, trade routes between the African continent and the European continent all happened through Egypt. So if you ruled Egypt in that area, you had the money, and that was critical. But as
Yeah.
we say, all aligned and connected to, for some reason, Orion's belt, um, which we don't have answers on. Now, the Nsude pyramid shrines are a little different. They are absolutely pyramids. They are much, much smaller and not as well built. But they are very strange, and you ask people why are they built, and the local people say that they are there to improve and empower a fetish or a juju, if you will, to protect the village, which is
Oh,
called uto. And it's said to have the special power that if thieves try to rob the village, they will all automatically die, which seems a bit
oh, shit.
frightening. Um,
Yeah, actually.
so apparently, these are powerful protective symbols. Now, we know as well that all pyramids are built with certain protections connected to them for different reasons. So it's interesting that here again you see that. It's
Mm.
unusual. But nevertheless, we now need to talk about the other bugbear, the problem that we need to understand. So the Nabta Playa in Egypt is a star map. Okay, so
Mm.
basically it's a place out in the desert. It's a desert plain. So when they talk about a playa, it's a desert plain. And
Mm.
it's one of the oldest astronomical sites, built around 7,000 years ago, with a stone circle and other megalithic alignments that track the summer solstice and the arrival of the monsoon season. So it's an observatory and a calendar. Now, we do know that Egypt was known to do this, so this one's not so surprising. However, in Senegal and Gambia, there is a concentration of over 1,000 stone circles. They're not exactly star maps that we understand them as, but they are astronomical and have some kind of calendar purpose in that regard, which is very interesting. It means that you've got a group of people advanced enough to have time to care about the stars and how they work and build things to track them. That takes an understanding which is much more civilized than we thought people were back then.
Yeah.
But we can go even further, because in good old South Africa, yes, our place, Jacqueline, in Blauboskraal,
Yeah.
there is a 75,000-year-old site which is an ancient calendar, and the alignment of the stone with the celestial events like the setting sun and more show that it is a functional astronomical tool that you could use to track events, most especially times of the year when weather would change, which was important. Observation for where the stars moved and when. And of course, this is interesting because according to what common archaeology knows, back then there was basically virtually nobody in southern Africa, and the few that were there were, a step up from a monkey type thing. They really weren't
Yeah.
doing anything fancy. But it seems actually we are completely wrong. They were not only doing, but they were doing with a great deal of knowledge. So this changes how we see the advancement of Africa, because these sites are in fact older than even places like Stonehenge and all of that. They are clearly massively old. But here's the interesting part, and I'm going to put the picture up so you can have a look at it. Give me a sec to do that. Because something that I don't think enough people talk about and why is the fact of how they're made. Okay, now you might say, well, does that matter? The answer is yes, it very, very much does. It matters because in order to build something like this, you have to realize that it's mathematical.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
to have mathematics means that you've had enough development in your culture to start formalizing things. That means proper language and counting, which is very advanced. I mean,
Yeah, it's not just about
people went for a long time without written works or counting in their culture. So to reach that level takes quite a lot of advancement. And to find these
exactly.
in a place in Africa that's supposed to have never had anything much
That's a
proves
lot
how
like
wrong it is.
that's a
Yes,
lot like Stonehenge kind of thing.
yes. So
Crazy.
now we have questions but no answers. But we shall carry on because we can. The next interesting point is that Adam's calendar, as they call it, in Machadostorp, in Mpumalanga, is a labyrinth of circular stone walls with linear pathways. Now, here again, this is the other weird thing. Most advanced cultures back in the day built squares. Squares are one of the ways of finding old structures because you don't really get too many right angles in nature. So it's a good way if you're trying to find proof of human inhabitants to look for that. But in Africa, that is not the case. We know that Great Zimbabwe is all circles, and so is this place. Blaboschkraal's stone ruins are concentric circles, and you start wondering why. What is the use of concentric circles in building and that kind of thing? Who would have built it? Now, contrary to what a lot of people say, there were no Bantu in South Africa back then. They came down with Mfecane, that happened much later. So the peoples that were down this side would have been the early precursor people, including the San, the Khoikhoi, the Tsonga, those sort of people that were already here, which are not Bantu in origin, interestingly enough, though they are very much African. So the San are more Nilotic in their origins, which means they share more with the Ethiopian line that comes down on the east coast of South Africa. But then you also had a quite powerful kingdom that lasted for a very long time until it was actually separated during the separation of Africa. So they were called the Marota, and they included a number of different groups, again distinct from the Khoikhoi and the San, that lived along the top part of South Africa. And the remaining ancestors of them, interestingly enough, are the Pedi, who are not Bantu. Just so you know, an interesting historical thing. But they would have been the people likely to have actually built this. Either that or what we now call the Bushmen, the San, or the Khoisan as they've become by the elision of the tribes. So one of those two groups would have built a site that has quite serious mathematical calculation to it, which shows huge advancement that nobody expected out of this part of Africa at that time. The sites show interesting decision in the way that even the buildings were laid out, not just the site itself, which implies that there's something to this that we don't know. Now, when the Zulus came across it, they referred to it as the Inzalo Yilanga, which is basically the birthplace of the sun, which is where we get the modern name Mpumalanga from. Yes, so the place of the birth of the sun, weirdly enough. And the Zulus used the site for ceremonies and things as well, as it's believed that there are somehow ancient powers and energies that are directed into these sites. Now, in line with that, according to some research I did, it does say that certain ley lines running through Africa are supposed to go through these areas. So maybe they are right.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yep. And what's interesting as well, to make serious buildings, you have to have enough advanced understanding of how things work that you can stack suitable stones in a brick-like fashion. Even if you're building from stones, not made bricks, you've got to understand how it works so it doesn't fall over. And clearly, the people that built these did, which makes it cool. Now, are they connected to aliens? This is a big question. We don't actually know. But there is alien connection to Africa. And in order to understand how this all fits together, we're going to have to jump to my notes, which I've immediately lost, because after all, that's what I do. Just close out those so I can find them, because we need to talk about the Dogon. Now, the Dogon are not the most advanced people around. This is true. They are culturally very interesting, and they have many fascinating cultural things about them. But in terms of advanced technology, you would think no. They are in the region of Mali in West Africa, near the city of Bandiagara in Burkina Faso. There's around 400,000 of them, bit more maybe, that speak the Dogon languages, and they are an independent branch of the Niger-Congo language family. So an interesting people, most notable for their special dances using very, very strange carved masks, which are quite interesting in that regard.
Oh, yeah.
So fascinating people, but really, really weird when it comes to religion. And here is why. So one of the things that they actually have done, which makes them very, very different to everything else, is that they refuse to change. Now, you might think that's odd. The entire area converted to Islam and would have been brought into a much better sort of social setup from what they were in. They refused, had nothing to do with that, kicked out and said no. They went down and built very, very strange houses in the cliff sides, but they don't live in them. The houses are for the ancestors, and you're not allowed near unless you are special, and to go there is very, very bad for you because you will get cursed. And then when you come out, yes, go on.
My friend, they a Shembe, they in their house they have a cottage in the back that is actually for the ancestors only. They don't let anybody in there. It's quite interesting.
Absolutely, and they will take in food and offerings and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's very common. But the next weird thing about them, besides their art, which does connect to it, which is quite important because some of the things that they make art of are not quite human. And you might wonder why. And the answer is very simple. They have knowledge of star systems that have only recently been able to be seen by modern science. So they laid out maps, star maps, of the Sirius system, which includes stars that nobody knew existed. And everyone thought, well, clearly they can't know because they haven't got telescopes or science or anything. But then finally we got to a point where we could see these stars, and we discovered the Dogon were right, which was a bit of a problem. Because how does somebody that lives in a mud hut know more about the star systems that you can't see than modern science? And so, of course, we had to go and ask them. So when the archaeologists worked with them in the 1930s and 1940s, they had a very, very advanced, complex system of writing with thousands of different signs, which were used to show their own systems of astronomy, calendar measurements, calculation and mathematics, anatomy, physiological knowledge, and medicine. And all of these things were way more advanced than they should have been able to have. But the key sort of spiritual figures in their religion are called the Nomo, twins specifically. And these twins are mermaids.
Oh, wow.
They come
Very
from the
cool.
sea with green skin and green hair, but from the waist up are human and fish like or somehow snake like ish from the waist down. Their eyes were red, their tongues forked, and their arms flexible and unjointed. And apparently, these sea creature type people came from the stars around the Sirius system, which is
I wonder,
how. Yes?
if they're talking about, because with the aliens, with UFOs, whatever, the book that I read, you get the greys and then you get the serpents, the lizard people.
Yes,
I wonder if
exactly.
that's
Who
what
come
they're talking about.
from the Sirius system, according to more than
Mm.
one culture around the world. The aliens that apparently come from the Sirius system are the reptilians. Some say they're bad, some say they're not. But according to the Dogon, who have claimed this for hundreds of years, they came and visited them. And they're connected to the ocean, to water, and they taught them all kinds of things and explained about the stars, which is how the Dogon knew about the stars that modern science only found out about way, way, way later. Now, given that there was definitely no technology that could have taught the Dogon all of these things, how did they know it? Because know it, they did. This
Hmm.
makes explaining it a little bit difficult. So, as you can imagine, archaeologists are a little bit
Confused.
confused. You know, surely because we know aliens don't exist, it can't be that, but we don't know what it was. Yeah,
Um,
well,
my
and
dad had a
then
very different opinion about UFOs. He had a lot of weird information.
there you go. So
Mm,
there are things that they talk about, that they know about, that they carve masks and figurines and things of, um,
yeah.
that there is absolutely no way that they could know, but they do. And this makes it difficult to really pin down because this makes no sense. In order to know about these things, you have to have a technology to match. That's clear.
Mm.
They don't have a technology to match, but they know. And
But it's
they
also with the yes. Well, sorry. It's also with the Egyptians. The way the pyramids were built, they said it was quite impossible for them to do it by hand. So they were talking about
there we go.
UFOs
Well,
helping and
let's add one more weird thing to the Dogon. In the areas around, the kind of structures that they often build kind of look pyramid like
hmm,
in a rough way. And you start wondering, is this also a version of pyramid?
hmm.
And are pyramids sort of the baseline? It's very hard to say. They've got pretty impressive buildings for a culture that's supposed to be that primitive.
Yeah.
Um, they
But don't,
clearly are good at what they do.
but don't the Mayans also have pyramids?
Yes, they
Or
did. You missed that one, unfortunately,
oh
because
yeah,
we did
sorry.
go through that. And that's the other big question. Why so many people with pyramids?
Yeah.
So we know that this, uh, there are things which the astronomers have managed to point out that the Dogon were wrong about. But then again, you might argue they're wrong about now. It may have been different back then. So the Dogon beliefs include errors about how many moons are possessed by Jupiter and Saturn. But the fact is, they knew Saturn was there, and maybe something happened to one of the moons. These things do happen.
Yeah.
They absolutely say that there were certain stars in the Sirius region that it wasn't until the 1950s astronomers even started thinking it might be there. So, you know, it's all very well, but we didn't even guess they were there until way later. Yet the Dogon knew about it, and they have spoken of a planet called Sirius C. Oh, no, sorry, not a planet. It's a dwarf star called Sirius C. Now, they say it exists. We don't know it exists. It hasn't been officially found by science. And ultimately, if we find it, it will prove that the Dogon have been right all along. We know that they speak of what we call Sirius A and Sirius B. We know that they spoke of a star that they called Emeya, that is dim, that's supposed to be out there. We found that one. It's the presence of what we call now a brown dwarf star, and it does exist. So they were right about that, which makes things a bit sort of dodgy.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
Sasha, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good, good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. So, what are we chatting about?
We are talking about the fact that in Africa there are many interesting archaeological finds, some of which are strange and some of which we cannot explain at all. And we've just been talking about the fact that the Dogon know about astrological formations in the stars, that some of which we've only found very, very recently with modern science, but they're right. And they're gone. That does happen. Now, here's an interesting picture which I'm going to throw up for you. None of these pictures, by the way, guys, are mine. I do not claim any of these as mine, but they are very, very interesting for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons, which I think you might enjoy, is that I'm not saying that the Dogon had anything to do with going to space or with spacemen or aliens or anything like that at all. But I am going to show you, if I can get it to actually frickin' work, because it doesn't want to. Format style. All I'm saying is that these carved masks look remarkably like some kind of alien helmet. I'm just saying, in my opinion, I could be wrong. But in my opinion, you tell me what you think. Right there.
Oh yeah.
So
I can see it.
I'm not saying it is, but I'm not saying it's
I
not.
can see what it
So
does have a resemblance.
it does. It shows that there's some weird something going on. That they apparently do know something. They also, as we say, claim that they have ancestry that are met up with the Nomo. these primordial beings that are aliens that came from these stars and are exactly in the description of what we would call a mermaid. And mermaids have been said to have been seen with a remarkably similar description by many, many, many cultures. They say that the vessel with which they came was brilliant and spinning. So it was a light, like many UFOs, just saying. And it helped them develop themselves up. We know that their cosmology was definitely way too advanced, and it puzzles everybody because they shouldn't been able to know about stars that you cannot see from Earth without special equipment. They talk about the Sirius A. Obviously, they have their own names for these as well, as being the brightest star and central. Okay, you can see that one, which is fine. Then they talk of Sirius B, very small, with the description of a white dwarf. Brooke, welcome. How are you? Hello? Okay, I'm going to mute that because it is way too loud. And foot had to do that. I'm sorry, Brooke. Whatever's banging in the background there was just way loud. When things have stopped banging, do join on and give comment again, please. Oh, no, she's gone. Okay. We know that this star is invisible to the naked eye. It has a 50-year orbital cycle around Sirius A and a strong gravitational influence. They are right. Then Sirius C is your third star, but nobody knows if it does or doesn't exist, but they say it does. So it's supposed to be a brown dwarf, a difficult one to even find. And they have whole ceremonies around these star systems and more, and the marks reflect their connection to these aliens. They do say that Jupiter is said to be a large planet with many moons, which science has proved. Saturn has rings. Yeah.
I'll be right back. I just need to go put my phone on charge.
No
I'll be back in
problemo.
a few minutes.
I will await you. Thank you for being thus far, and we look forward to seeing you back. Cool. Okay, so they identify Saturn and its rings. It also is true that they speak of, again, Orion. Now, this is another place that talks about Orion that also has pyramids that we don't have answers to. Why Orion? Why is it so important? So clearly there's something going on here. Now, we also know that there are the Senegambian stone circles, which are very interesting. There's over 1,000 of them in a band 100 kilometers wide. Some of them are along about 350 kilometers of the river Gambia. There are 4 groups connected to them in some way: the Sine Ngayene, the Wana, the Wasu, and the Kirbach, which cover 39 stone circles, numerous burial mounds, and other mounds, some of which have been excavated to reveal material that suggests dates between the 3rd century BC and the 16th century AD, so pretty damn old. They are pillars of stone that might be burial mounds, but were absolutely created more than 1,500 years ago, which shows a prosperous, highly organized, and lasting society. They're very interesting because it changes our view of who these people were and what they were doing. they clearly were able to stay in one place long enough to build them, which means that they had absolutely a sufficiency of food and more. They were... You're back! Yay! Welcome, welcome. Let's reignite Multighost. So clearly we've got a number of required things to show how they were able to develop them. Now, what about the other things? And there are a lot. Clearly, in Africa, people knew about the stars. They were advanced enough to build and develop. And I was trying to get a place where all the star maps are through Africa, and unfortunately, the only picture I found was a really crummy one, which is not going to be worth your while to look at. But essentially, they fall along one of the major ley lines that's supposed to run through Africa, which of course is exactly what we are interested in that regard. That's going away. So jumping from the Dogon, if I can get past that, we are going to the town of McGregor. And why McGregor? So if you can imagine a map of Africa, and if you split it right down the middle, sort of on the right-hand side in the middle, so between the edge of Africa, so 3/4 of the way across from the left, you would have a ley line going down the length of Africa. But we also have a number of them that go across, and the town of McGregor is a junction between the long one down and one of the cross ones. And it is one of those places that's supposedly known to be an energetic site.
Crossroads.
Now, yes, but a number of the places where these stone circles lie around Africa are on ley lines as well, which then leads us to question, did these people know about the ley lines, and were they actually trying to use them? Now, McGregor is out in the middle of nowhere. It's a very interesting town because there's a huge number of wellness centers that have sprung up there, almost on their own, with mineral cleansing, karmic things and shamanistic stuff, and all of that sort of new age type thing that fits to that. And apparently the crystals there are particularly potent. So McGregor, it shows that certain places throughout Africa absolutely are supposed to be connected to in that regard. Now, it's interesting in that this downward line, ley line, has been noted by a number of different African cultures and is supposed to be, they say, the Golden Nile Meridian. So it more or less follows the line of the Nile. Okay, it's sacred all the way along with very high energy to it. And it runs right through from Durban, yay, to Cairo in Egypt, which is very, very interesting. And what's also interesting is not only is it a major energy line, it also runs along the geological line with huge gold deposits, which may or may not have something to do with it. So, what do we find lying on this alleged ley line? Pyramids of Egypt, the Sphinx, the Nile River, the pyramids of the Sudan, Lake Victoria in Uganda, the Great Zimbabwe ruins, Adam's calendar in Bloboskrau, and Timbavati, where the white lions come from. All down on the same line, which makes it very interesting. Now, we know that this kind of thing, what do they say? One is interesting, 2 is a surprise, 3 is a coincidence, and 4 is proof. Well, we've got more than 4.
Exactly.
And they say that this forms what they say the spine of the earth. If you see the earth as a spiritual body, and the major nerve points go down the spine in your body, well, this is what the nilotic meridian does. With all kinds of energy spots, right or wrong. And they say that if you do travel up, you will find not only sacred sites, but very, very old baobab trees, which we know have lived for thousands of years. Gong rocks. Now, if you don't know what a gong rock is, they are a very weird volcanic formation of rocks that if you tap them, they have a metallic sound. They act like a gong naturally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're really cool. There's also many hot springs, stone circles, and more. So it seems that there's a lot that you can find all along these sacred sites. And what's even more interesting is when it gets down to the Drakensberg sort of bits, that's where all the Bushman paintings line up as well. So clearly, it was well known that this, and has been for centuries and centuries, that there is power down this line of Africa, if you will. Now, of course, a lot of this stuff is things that people say, but there's no scientific proof. But then again, does science know everything? And the answer to that is, of course not. So we need to understand what's going on. And in the words of Credo Mutwa, who is one of the famous modern prophets of Africa, man must make 2 connections. He must be reconnected with the earth and reconnected with the stars. And it seems that the choice around the world is specifically Orion. So maybe we need to look into that and figure out more. Now, I don't know. There's a lot to be said for a lot of these things in all kinds of ways. There's a lot we don't know, and that we cannot deny. But it does seem interesting because I'm going to throw some thoughts out that I've often wondered about. As we well know, anybody with serious science will tell you that the idea of crystals is dumb. It's just stupid magic, isn't it? However, you might not realize it, but if you are looking at a screen right now, you are looking at a liquid crystal display. If you've ever owned a watch, your watch is partly powered by crystals. If you've ever had a calculator in your hand, you've had crystals. Crystals conduct energy. We know this. Crystals are used in technology all the time. They're an integral part of the space program. So clearly, Whether or not you call it science or magic is up to you, but crystals have power. And we've proved it by science. It's a question of how, which changes our view. And, it's all very well to say, but if it's not scientific, it's not real. Well, hold on a minute. It is scientific. And there you go. And I always laugh, and you've heard me say so often, Jacqueline, we say that if magic was real, we would teach it. Well, we do. It's called spelling.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Right? It's integral to being human in one way or another. It seems that all of these things are out there, and they're not explained. We know that the pyramids are real. They were built. We know that to build it would have taken massive technology. We just don't know how. We know that places like Machu Picchu, which again are made with blocks 10 tons or more, how would you drag a block through the jungle over 200-meter deep gorges with only rope bridges and crappy stone chisels to build something like it? Doesn't add up. But they're built. We know that. They're there. So we cannot deny the existence. We just can't explain the how. Maybe there's something we're missing. I know that my brother went to Egypt. Sadly, I wasn't able to go. I really wanted to. But the tunnel going into Tutankhamun's tomb is so straight that the only way to build something that straight out of stone is to use a laser pointer. If you use a string, you'll get a curvature. It's natural. So you have to use some kind of laser to get that straightness that it's got. So again, it's there, it was done. They just couldn't have done it according to what we understand about what they were. But they did it. So immediately you see the problem. So every time we come up with these wonderful archaeological things, and there are many, I mean, Great Zimbabwe in Africa is a truly incredible building. It just couldn't have been built when it was, because we know the people were too primitive, except the buildings there. So how do we explain that?
Yeah, you really can't.
You see, if they couldn't have built it, then it shouldn't be there, but it is there. Therefore, they must have had the technology to have built it. So who were they, and what were they doing, and etc., etc. We know that there's many ancient legends, which we know are just stories. Of course, they're just stories of ancient kingdoms that existed. But the problem is, there's also evidence that these stories were real. Everybody knew that there was never a great kingdom in Africa until they discovered all the proof of the great kingdom of Kush. And then it was like, oh, no. When we meant Africa, we meant lower down, quick backpedal. The place was there. They were great. We know that Ethiopia has had not only a great kingdom, they were never in history ever conquered by anyone. Ever. There are very, very few people that can claim that any culture in the world. Those guys were tough, and they had a powerful civilization and have had for centuries. Clearly, the world's views of archaeology are not what we think. Much thanks for the shares there quickly, and for the likes. And Max wants to join. We're going to... Yes, give me your question, Jacqueline. Give me your comment. Go for it.
I was just saying, there's too much like evidence. Well, evidence, but like the different, like the Egyptians and the Mayans and everyone talking about UFOs, and I don't know. I'm quite a believer, to be honest.
Well, my issue, such as it is I'm not saying that they do exist. I'm not claiming it. All I'm saying is I haven't found a better argument for a number of things that I would like to see explained.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it's untrue. I'm just saying, well, give me a better option.
yeah.
Ethiopia is Albania.
Ethiopia is Albania. Just a guy. Why? Ethiopia is not Albania. No.
What's popping, cuz?
Hey, Max Honey. Ethiopia is a very long, thin country that runs down a lot of the upper part of Eastern
Bro,
Africa.
don't be rude, bro. Don't be rude now. Shut up.
And that was
Just
done.
get out if you don't have anything
Goodbye.
rude to say, bro.
We always kick off people who are rude on this live. That is a standard rule. Sorry,
Yeah,
we stand by it.
No. I understand.
So, yes, you were quite correct, Just a Guy. You are absolutely correct in your warning to him, and he didn't listen and he got booted. So, yes, Ethiopia runs down the east side of Africa, famous actually for its silver craft for many centuries. And they do some really beautiful silver craft. And interesting people with a lot of very interesting history, including one of the oldest Christian churches. Now, for those of you who don't know how Christianity sort of developed, it began quite obviously in and around the Middle East, where Jesus was, naturally. But then it started expanding. And the first place that it expanded to in a major way was, in fact, Ethiopia. And you got what they call the Ethiopian Christian Church. It also went to the Greeks and the Russians, developing in the Russian Orthodox and the Greek Orthodox. It then developed westwards, developing into what we call the Catholic Church. But what's important is that these are not other religions. They are other versions of the same, which means that if you're a Catholic and you want to go to church, but there isn't a Catholic church, you can go to a Coptic church or to a Russian Orthodox or Greek Orthodox, and it still counts, even though the ceremony is quite different. Yes, it's very important. So in Ethiopia, what's really strange and interesting is that their Bible contains far more books than in the other orthodoxies, where it was shortened to a certain degree for reasons of faith, they say. And amongst other things, they keep the Book of Jubilees, which has a quite large section on warnings against vampires.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you can ever go and find the Book of Jubilees, it warns of the evils of the passed on blood curse and how that's basically a punishment for evil. And it is absolutely biblical. It's just in certain books that are no longer canonical to the standard Christian churches that we generally know. But they are in Ethiopia. As are a number of other things like the Gospel of Thomas, which is no longer part of the standard. We think there's 4 Gospels. No, there were actually more than 4 written. Whether or not they are canonical or true is argued. So, absolutely. there's that. And Pugsto says tomorrow is Morocco Day. That sounds pretty cool. You'll have to tell us what Morocco Day is. I would be quite interested in that. But yeah, so Africa has a lot of secrets. Very few of them are easily explained. Clearly, there's been advanced civilizations a lot longer than people think. And the weird part is, we sort of understand that proper civilization or the civilizing of humans only began with Homo sapiens. Okay, what we are Homo sapiens. Now, before us, you had the earlier versions that were not quite human. Well, there's proof that these earlier versions were more advanced and did use tools of varying varieties, which seems to imply that our understanding of how history worked is wrong. Alyssa, welcome, welcome. Are you alive?
Under the sea.
Yeah, very much so. It seems sometimes people have quite a difficulty with the audio connecting. I'm not sure why. It might just be TikTok. Who's to say? But nevertheless, with that said, we can conclude that there are strange things, and all of them seem to connect to something that's a little bit different. And it seems that, as we have seen with the Dogon, aliens visited Africa at some stage and left teachings of varying kinds. We know that there are a number of mermaid style legends that come out of quite a few different African cultures that, if you follow the normal view of who was where when, they wouldn't have been able to influence each other. They're too far apart. But they have the same basic stories. Wherever there's a lot of water, your aliens are aquatic like mermaids. We know that there are stories of mermaids even in Ethiopia. It is coastal, of course. We know that in Cote d'Ivoire there are stories of mermaids, and that's on the other side of the continent. We know that there are stories of mermaids even down in South Africa, and we're at the bottom of the continent, not the top. And Africa, let's face it, is freaking big.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we're getting to is that, yes, it's bigger than you think, it's stranger than you think, and we don't actually have all the answers. But with that, we are broadly towards the end of what I've got. So what have you guys got for me? Tell me stories. What do you think? Have there been aliens in Africa?
Well, my dad was talking about in Durban, there was a group of people who worshipped aliens, the UFOs, or whatever. And they would go out to sea like once or twice a year, and the UFOs would come and they would speak with them and all kinds of weird things. It was
Well,
crazy.
I will give you a weird thing. Now, this isn't alien. Now, distinction, very important distinction. If you have an alien sighting, you're talking you've literally seen the little green man pop out of his ship and come and at least be looked at by you. Okay, that's an alien sighting, as opposed to a UFO sighting where you're talking about an unidentified object flying in the sky that can't be anything you can explain. Now, I've never seen an alien, but I have absolutely and on several occasions seen UFOs over Durban.
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to cut things short.
That's quite all right. We're ending up anyway, but so that you know, I have seen UFOs over Durban Harbour.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
So maybe there are aliens out there.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
That's really cool.
It is. But with that said, thank you, Jacqueline, for joining us. That has been absolutely fantastic. And I'm
That's
glad
nice.
you've been with us this long, because we have actually reached the end of our live and all we had to talk about.
Yeah.
So thank you so
That's
much.
really interesting.
Yes, it was
Thank
good
you for
fun.
all your information. Yeah,
And
that's really good.
we will do more. I don't know, where would you like to go
Yeah.
to see next? What country? Pick a country.
Maybe Japan. Japan is pretty interesting.
Japan it is. We shall do Japan.
It's a bit cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you must have a good evening.
And you too, and we will see you on the morrow, and we will do Japan.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you so much for being with us. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and do all of the good things. We do our live at 10 o'clock South African time. That's GMT +2. So you're more than welcome. Tomorrow will be a live. Sunday will not, because we do not do a live on Sunday. But do come back and bring questions, bring likes, and all of the good stuff. And until then, I will end as I always end. Have a wonderful evening. Sleep deep, sleep sweet, but sleep with one eye open, because you never know. Keep that holy object near at hand, because sometimes those things that go bump in the night might very well go bump for you. Good night.
All right. Have a good night.
Cheers, cheers.